Friends, we'll start discussing from text 9 onwards. The attached holders remains in his family life, which is full of diplomacy and politics, always spreading miseries and controlled by acts of sense gratification. He acts just to counteract the reactions of his miseries, and if he can successfully counteract such miseries, he thinks he is happy. Purport: in Bhagavad Gita, the personality of Godhead certifies the material world as an impermanent place that is full of miseries. There is no question of happiness in the material world, either individually or in terms of family, society, or country. If something is going on in the name of happiness, that is illusion. Here in the material world, happiness means successful contraction of distress. The material world is so made that unless one becomes a clever diplomat, his life will be failure. What to speak of human society? Even in the society of lower animals, the birds and beasts cleverly manage their bodily demands of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Human society competes nationally or individually, and in attempt to be successful, the entire human society becomes full of diplomacy. We would always remember that in spite of all diplomacy and all intelligence in the struggle of existence, everything will end in a second by the supreme will. Therefore, all our attempts to become happy in this material world are simply a delusion offered by Maya. Text 10. He secures money by committing violence here and there, and although he employs it in the service of the family, he himself only eat little portion of the food that is purchased, and thus he goes to hell for those whom he earned his money in such an irregular way. There is a Bengali proverb: the person from whom I have stolen accuses me of being a thief. The family members for whom an attached person acts in so many criminal ways are never satisfied. In illusion, an attached person serves such family members, and by serving them, he is destined to enter into hellish condition of life. For example, a thief steals something to maintain his family and is caught in imprisonment. This is the sum and substance of material existence and attachment to material, society, friendship, and love. Although an attached family man is always engaged in getting money by hook or crook for the maintenance of family, he cannot enjoy more than what he could consume even without such criminal activities. A man who eats 8 ounces of food may have to maintain a big family and earn money by any means to support his family, but he himself is not offered more than what he can eat. Sometimes he eats the remnants that are left after his family members are fed. Even by earning money by unfair means, he cannot enjoy life for himself. This is called covering of illusion or Maya. The process of illusory service to society, country, and community is exactly the same everywhere. The same principle is applicable even to big national leaders. A national leader who is very great in serving his countrymen is sometimes killed by his own countrymen because of irregular service. In other words, one cannot satisfy his dependents by illusory service, although one cannot get out of the service because being a servant is his constitutional position. A living entity is constitutionally part and parcel of the Supreme Being, but he forgets that he has to render service to the Supreme Being and diverts his attention to serving others. This is called Maya. By serving others, he falsely thinks he is the master. The head of a family thinks of himself as the master of the family. The leader of a nation thinks of himself as the master of the nation. It is actually he is serving, and by serving Maya, he is gradually going to hell. Therefore, a sane man should come to the point of Krishna consciousness and engage in service of the Supreme Lord, relying his whole life, all of his wealth, his entire intelligence, and his full power of speaking. I repeat, therefore a sane man should come to the point of Krishna consciousness and engage in service of the Supreme Lord, applying his whole life, all of his wealth, his entire intelligence, and his full power of speaking. Text 11 to 13. When he suffers reverses in his occupation, he tries and again to improve himself, but he is baffled in all attempts and is ruined. He accepts money from others because of excessive greed. Thus the unfortunate man, successful in maintaining his family members, is bereft of all beauty. He always thinks of his failure, grieving very deeply. Seeing him unable to support them, his wife and others do not treat him with the same respect as before. Even as miserly farmers do not accord the same treatment to their old and worn out oxen. Purport: not only in the present age, but from time immemorial, no one has liked an old man who is unable to earn in the family. Even in the modern age, in some countries or states, the old men are given poison so that they will die as soon as possible. In some cannibalistic communities, the old grandfather is sportingly killed, feast is held in which his body is eaten. Here the example is given that a farmer does not like an old ox who has ceased to work. Similarly, when an attached person in family life becomes old and is unable to earn, he is no longer liked by the 5 sons, daughters, and other kinsmen. He is constantly rejected, what to speak of not being given respect. It is judicious effort to give up family attachment before one ends old age and take the shelter of Supreme Personality of Godhead. A person should employ himself in Lord's service so that the Supreme Lord can take charge of him and he will not be neglected by his so-called kinsmen. Text 14. The foolish family man does not become averse to family life, although he is maintained by those whom he once maintained. Deformed by the influence of old age, he prepares himself to meet ultimate death. But for family affection is so strong that even if a person is neglected by family members in his old age, he cannot give up family affection. He remains at home just like a dog. In the Vedic way of life, it is advised that before getting too weak and being baffled in material activities and before becoming diseased, one should give up family life and engage oneself completely in the service of the Lord for the remaining days of life. Therefore, Vedic scripture enjoined that as soon as one passes 50 years of age, he must give up family life and live alone in the forest. After preparing himself fully, he should become a sannyasi, travel widely and distribute the knowledge of spiritual life to each and every home. Text 15. Thus he remains at home just like a pet dog and eats whatever he is so negligently given to him. Afflicted with many illnesses such as dyspepsia and loss of appetite, he eats only very small morsels of food and becomes an invalid who cannot work anymore. Before meeting death, a man is sure to become a diseased invalid, and when he is neglected by his family members, his life becomes less than a dog because he is put into so many miserable conditions. Vedic literature enjoined therefore that before the arrival of such miserable condition, a man should leave home and die without the knowledge of his family members. If a man leaves home and dies without his family knowing, that is considered a glorious death. But an attached family man wants his family members to carry him in a great procession even after his death, and although he is not be able to see how the procession goes, he still desires the body is taken gorgeously in possession. So he is happy without even knowing where he has to go and when he leaves his body for the next life. Text 16 to 17. In that disease condition, a man's eyes bulge due to the pressure of air from within, and his glands become congested with mucus. He has difficulty breathing, and upon exhaling and inhaling, he produces a sound like grrr, grrr, rattling between the throat. In this way, he becomes under the clutches of death and lies down surrounded by lamenting friends and relatives. And although he wants to speak with them, he no longer can because he is under control of time. Purport: for formality's sake, when a man is lying on his deathbed, his relatives come to him and say sometimes they cry very loud, addressing the dying, "Oh my father, oh my friend, oh my husband." At pitiable condition, the dying man wants to speak with them and instruct them to his desires. Because he is fully under the control of time factor, death, he cannot express himself and thus causes him inconceivable pain. He is already in painful condition because of disease and his glands and throats are choked up with mucus. He is already in a very difficult position, and when he is addressed by his relatives in that way, his grief increases. Text 80. Thus a man who is engaged with uncontrolled senses in maintaining the family dies in great grief. Seeing his relatives crying, he dies most pathetically, in great pain and without consciousness. In Bhagavad Gita it is said at the time of death one will be absorbed in the thoughts of cultivating during the lifetime. A person who has no idea other than to maintain his family members and must have family members in his last thoughts. This is a natural sequence of a common man. The common man does not know the destiny of his life. He is simply busy in this present flash of life maintaining his family. At that stage, no one is satisfied with how he has improved the family economic condition. Everyone thinks that he could not provide sufficiently. Because of his deep family affection, he forgets his main duty of controlling his senses and improving his spiritual consciousness. Sometimes a dying man entrusts the family members to either his son or some relative saying, "I am going, please look after the family." He does not know where is he going, but even after at the time of that he is anxious about his family will be maintained. Sometimes it is seen that a dying man requires the physician to increase his life at least for a few years so that family maintenance plan which he has begun can be completed. These are the material diseases of the conditioned soul. He completely forgets his real engagement to become Krishna consciousness. He is always serious about planning to maintain his family, although he changes families one after another. Thank you so much for the patient hearing.